News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, efforts to end the war with Iran are getting complicated now. An Iranian media report says the latest U.S. proposal to stop the fighting has narrowed the gaps to some extent. But Reuters is reporting that Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has ordered the country's highly enriched uranium stockpile not to be sent abroad. President Trump says that is a non-starter.
We get the highly enriched. We will get it. We don't need it. We don't want it. We'll probably destroy it after we get it, but we're not going to let them have it.
And President Trump's also coming out against a plan by Iran and Oman to set up a permanent toll system through the Strait of Hormuz. Bloomberg's Stuart Livingston Wallace reports that could be a major sticking point.
This is, as Trump says, an international waterway, and traditionally you don't have tolls on that, and I think it would be very difficult for the international community, not least the littoral states here and, the regional states, to accept that going forward they have to pay a toll to either Iran or Oman or both in order to move their goods through.
And Bloomberg's Stuart Livingston Wallace reports President Trump's threatened to resume attacks within days if Iran does not agree to his terms, though he has made that threat several times before.
Meantime, Nathan, on Capitol Hill, House Republican leaders abruptly called off a vote to authorize the Iran war. Armed Services Chair Mike Rogers says not enough Republicans were present for the vote. Massachusetts Democrat Jim McGovern says it's because they're running out of support.
Gas prices are through the roof. People can't afford their groceries. Is that why you're pulling it? You guys don't have the guts or the balls.
The House will be in order.
Democrat Jim McGovern blasted the canceled vote on the House floor. Last week, the House tied on a similar vote that Democrats have been forcing repeatedly to highlight the growing economic toll from the war.
And Karen, the war could also be affecting President Trump's decision to sign off on a $14 billion arms sale to Taiwan. Acting Navy Secretary Hung Kao told a Senate committee that the U.S. has put a temporary hold on arms sales to the island to ensure the U.S. has enough supplies for the conflict. A spokesman for Taiwan's president says there is currently no indication that the U.S. plans to make any adjustments to the sale.
Nathan, President Trump says he plans to send 5,000 troops to Poland. The decision reverses a plan to suspend an army deployment to Poland, which was paused by the Pentagon a week earlier. We get more from Bloomberg chief European correspondent Oliver Crook.
The United States found that actually the quickest way to pull troops out of Europe was to block the rotation that was coming into Poland. And obviously, Poland is seen as a more model ally at the moment to the United States because they're not being as disparaging as Donald Trump. And they sort of reversed that move, saying that actually they're going to send 5,000 troops to Poland. So I think net, we're talking about still a reduction in troops for the Germans, but they didn't want to punish the Poles. Interestingly, for some reason, Donald Trump cited the fact that the Poles had elected the president who was an ally of Trump, but that was, August of last year. So anyway, it was a sort of a jumbled message here, but it seems that broadly speaking, still their plan is to remove troops from Germany. They don't want to punish Poland. And overall, we should say that the American posture is they do want to reduce their troop levels in Europe overall.
Bloomberg chief European correspondent Oliver Crook says President Trump has suggested a broader drawdown of the U.S.'s 85,000 military personnel in Europe, and that's in the works.
And back here in the U.S., Karen, the Senate has left Washington for a week-long recess without passing President Trump's $72 billion immigration package. Bloomberg's Amy Morris reports from Washington.
Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito explains there were just too many questions about the president's so-called anti-weaponization fund.
It just became much more complicated. A lot of questions about what is this fund, who decides, who's eligible, how did it come about, why are we hearing about this now?
Senator Shelley Moore Capito on balance of power. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says there is a way forward.
Stop backing the slush fund. Stop pushing the ballroom. And as soon as we get back, join Democrats in fighting to lower Americans' costs.
The bill had already faced significant pushback from Republicans over using the bill to fund Trump's ballroom. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Amy, thank you all. This is shaping up to be one of the most expensive Memorial Days on record. As millions get set to hit the road this weekend, the price of gasoline is more than 40% higher than a year ago. Bloomberg economic reporter Mark Niquette says that's not the only thing rising for consumers.
We're starting to see a big increase in food prices, but in particular, prices for things like beef and lettuce and tomatoes. The average ground beef prices in April broke the $7 per pound threshold for the first time. And steak is now past $13 a pound. Tomatoes are up 40% compared to this time last year. That's the biggest jump since 2004.
And Bloomberg's Mark Niket says economists expect food prices to keep rising in part because of the diminished supply and rising prices of fertilizer as a result of the Iran war. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.